Welcome back, everybody. We're now going into a session with an excellent set of panelists. It's called Stakeholder Priorities for the Future of Medicine Regulation, Supporting Innovation, Providing Transparency and Ensuring Patient Access to Medicines. So really pleased to welcome Dr. Jan Turner, who's the Director of the Safer Medicines Trust, to give the opening presentation. Jan.
Thank you, Daniel. Okay. So let me just, hello everybody. My talk today is about developing methods and technologies to ensure safe and effective medicines, and it follows on from my previous presentation at this meeting in July 2020. So in summary, I'm just going to talk a bit about our charity and who we are, but then move on to the current drug discovery or drug safety process and where and why we believe regulations need to change. And finally, finished with some lessons that have been learned from both the Cumberledge report and the COVID pandemic. So Safer Medicines Trust is an independent patient safety charity, and our aim really is to make medicines safer through far greater use of more predictive, better predictive human relevant science, and our website is here for further information. So the traditional drug discovery process here is, and don't worry too much about the details, essentially we have the sort of preclinical phase here before the line, and then the human phase after the line. And during the research and preclinical phase, virtually all the studies which take place are in legacy models, and this typically is used in animals, which we now know are really no better than tossing a coin in terms of predicting toxic effects in humans. And moreover, at no point during this phase are patients involved in the process. Something which is probably quite astounding when you consider that over 90% of drugs tend to fail using this process. And also, moreover, there's at no point during this phase and additionally, we have adverse drug reactions now, the 4th to 6th leading cause of death in the Western world. Over 10,000 people die every year in the UK from adverse drug reactions. And these are only manifested really when medicines are released into the wider human population, which means I think we should really be thinking about retooling the R&D model, the drug discovery process model, and being more innovative with our testing to make drugs safer. Included in this is incorporating pharmacovigilance and real-world data, which I guess some people will talk about in the meeting today, where regulators can be informed about previously unknown side effects, and also we can use that data to improve future research. And in addition, there's a myriad of scientific advances which involve in human cells and tissues and computational models that have taken place over the last 10 to 20 years that now enable us to understand so much more about human biology, disease and treatments. Indeed, Jonathan Mogford, who was due to be here today but was at the last meeting in July, acknowledged that the pharmaceutical development process needs to change and that the MHRA needs to step up and align with rapid development of technologies. So we do have a wealth of these platforms and methods available to us, which use human cells and tissues and can be maintained under biologically relevant conditions of culture and allow us to routinely study different human diseases, to explore disease susceptibility and to design and test novel drug treatments. These also allow us to predict and avoid the human adverse drug reactions that cannot be detected in the legacy animal models that we are currently using. We even, and with the computational tools, of course, we are also able to predict a human in vivo response from these human relevant models. We also have a number of models and tools also available now that we can use for the development of COVID-19 drugs and vaccines. So, to raise the profile of these technologies and obtain support from various stakeholders to accelerate their growth in the UK, last year Safer Medicines Trust, as part of the Alliance for Human Relevant Science, produced a white paper which produced 5 recommendations, 2 of which were around strategic funding and regulatory engagement. Oops, apologies. There we go. We also set up an APPG in October 2020 and are now gathering evidence of funding and regulatory changes required to promote the adoption of these technologies for improved health, wealth and general productivity in the UK. And in terms of the current regulatory practice, there's still an expectation from the wording of the guidelines that new drugs must be tested in 2 species of animals, usually mice, rats, followed by dogs and monkeys. Yet we know firsthand from our interactions with the MHRA that they will accept data from pharma using these so-called new approach methodologies in preclinical testing. And we therefore urgently need to update the regulations to enable human relevant methodologies to support regulatory decisions on progression of drugs into clinical trials. And really what we're asking for, and I think Matt mentioned this, is a system that is fit for the 21st century. At the last Westminster Health Forum meeting on this subject, I highlighted that we were asking for the ability to challenge those regulations, which we believe are not fit for purpose, and be able to propose new approach methodologies and solutions in a collaborative way with the MHRA. And as part of that request, we also asked for clearly defined processes be made available to enable the adoption of these innovative technologies into the medicines regulation process, which we strongly feel are lacking. The US regulator, the FDA, actually has just announced, has just announced their program to actually do this, the iStand program. They're piloting this, and this supports the development of novel approaches to drug development that may be acceptable for regulatory use. And such an approach from the MHRA would be very welcome and could perhaps be regarded as a necessity to stem the drug failures that we've seen, the adverse drug reactions and ultimately deaths. But it would also hopefully provide that future proofing that I know Matt mentioned in his talk as well. And turning to the pandemic then, I think it's clear that the MHRA has received its fair share of both praise and criticism following its rapid approval of the use of the COVID vaccines. But what we've learned from all of this is just how flexible the MHRA can be during this process. As part of the ICMRA, the MHRA agreed that supported data from closely related products to the vaccine constructs and platforms could be leveraged to accelerate the development of the vaccines to support first-in-human clinical trials. And despite there being a requirement to still obtain data in animals, it was agreed that those studies could be carried out in parallel to clinical studies, thereby increasing the speed to market. Ultimately, it was the rolling review of data which enabled the MHRA to approve the vaccines so quickly, and we should take heed from this approach as we consider how to effectively reduce drug development timelines going forwards. What's been encouraging for us in the scientific community has been to hear June Rain actually at the BIA MHRA Regulatory Innovation Conference in September talk about how she believed the agency could transform or should transform due to, amongst other things, science and technology, and also opportunities in digital information and artificial intelligence, which speak to our requests. However, we've, as a patient safety charity, we were of course appalled by the treatment of Primados and sodium valproate patients, and we stand by the resulting recommendations of the Cumberledge report into these cases. Jonathan Mockford also said in July that the Cumberledge report highlighted a real need for change in our systems and that patients must be better informed on safety and above all be listened to. And we actually really welcomed then the announcement of the Patient Safety Commissioner in December, which should be incorporated into the amendment of the bill. What we hope is that learnings from this investigation and the COVID response really enable the MHRA to capitalise on these cases and create a more agile and effective independent agency. So in conclusion, our hopes for the MHRA and the medicines regulation in the UK is that it will become an enabling regulator, not only supporting innovation, but also collaborating with scientists to put the best available science and evidence into regulations. The changes identified in this talk and many others that I think will come through today may be radical, but the agency has shown it can be flexible when required and can continue to make life-changing decisions based on good and hopefully the most relevant and science and evidence. In doing this, we hope we will then be able to have confidence that medicines regulation in the UK through the MHRA will always have patient safety as its first priority. Thank you.
Thanks ever so much, Jan. Really, really important perspective on all of that.